This is one of the world's best inverted coasters, and I wouldn't be surprised if you've never even heard of it. Pyrenees is located at Parque España on the southeastern coast of Japan, kind of in between Nagoya and Osaka, but also not at all. It's a hike to get here even once you're inside the country of Japan. But after making a visit for my first time in fall 2024, I was rewarded with one of the best B&M inverts I'd ever experienced. Pyrenees opened in 1997, the same year as Alpengeist. It was a big year for white B&M inverts. This was only 3 years after Parque España made its grand debut, and to this day, it's still their largest attraction. It stands 148 feet tall, features a max speed of 62 miles per hour, flies through 6 inversions, and over 4,000 feet of track. Prior to Banshee's debut in 2014, this was the world's longest B&M invert. It is an action-packed ride experience, sending you through 2 vertical loops, a 0G roll, corkscrew, and even a little airtime hill. And much like those other fan-favorite 90s inverts, Pyrenees rips through its course. This is going to be my full in-depth review of the attraction. I'm going to walk you through the layout, talk about its pros and cons, and at the end of the video, I'll be giving it a final score. Now, as you might have been able to guess, Parque España, Shima, Spain Village is based around the country of Spain. Pyrenees was inspired by the mountain range of the same name up on the northern side of the country. It acts as a natural border between France. I imagine that white track is supposed to be reminiscent of the snow-capped peaks. Outside of the callback to the mountain range though, I would not describe Pyrenees as an elaborately themed attraction, though it does have a beautiful entrance. I love this stonework, and the actual station area is surrounded by rockwork. That, however, does not cross into the interior of the station, which does not feature any theming. The rest of the park is elaborately themed, but this coaster is just meant to be pretty, and that white pops. It's a beautiful looking ride in the back of the park. You can actually see it right by the main entrance with that big cobra roll going overhead. Upon entry into Parque España, to no one's surprise, we went here straight away. It was one of my most anticipated rides of that entire Japan trip we did. I knew I was going to want multiple rides in on it, and the only thing standing in my way was the slow operations. Oh my gosh, there was no sense of urgency. They are taking their sweet time over there. I could not believe how long it took to send out a train on a B&M invert of all things. These are supposed to be a breeze to operate, but for some reason, the crews here at Parque España lift up every single over-the-shoulder restraint and push it back down between cycles. Like, what the crap? I have never seen anything like it before. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why they are doing this. B&M is one of the most reputable roller coaster manufacturing companies in the entire world. These things have a flawless track record. There is absolutely no need for that. And unfortunately, that was not the only quirk we found within the operations of this coaster. For one, if you have loose-fitting shoes, instead of just going barefoot, you actually have to wear rubber bands around your feet. I'd never seen that before. That was a weird one. And every single over-the-shoulder restraint has additional padding. This like leather fabric surrounds the top part where your shoulders are, and then this cushion sits like directly above your waist, which was really strange. The only thing I could possibly think of that could be the reason for having it is if you're really afraid that people might slam their head forward, and that's to catch you. But that seems kind of excessive. There's a reason that does not exist on any other B&M coaster. So the end result are 32 over-the-shoulder restraints that appear way too bulky, but alas, here we are. So once you're finally strapped in, you'll begin your climb up almost 150 feet, taking in beautiful views of the Parque España Hotel, the nearby coast and mountain range. This park is so immersive that this is like one of the few reminders that you're actually in Japan and not Spain. And from here, you take the gradual right-handed turn down your main drop, building up a lot of speed as you get flung into your first inversion of vertical loop. This inversion is very comparable to a standard loop that you might find on any other invert, but it takes at such a good speed that as you're exiting this loop to rise up into your 0G roll, I was experiencing a pretty decent gray out. The positive Gs are strong, and the negative Gs are also excellent. This roll is just so perfectly profiled that you are floating up and then getting laterals as you whip around it. As with any other invert, if you want to experience more dramatic sensations, try out an end seat. On Pyrenees, you won't be allowed to pick your own row, but certainly you can decide whether you want an interior or end seat. But during my multiple laps on this attraction, I did not think there was a bad seat on the train. Following this roll, riders are thrown into a second vertical loop. At this point in time, the three elements you've experienced are identical to a Batman the Ride clone. If you remember, that layout was the first inverted coaster that B&M ever built. So Pyrenees features that same succession of elements just on a larger scale as this attraction stands over 40 feet taller. Following this loop, you'll bank right up against the ground to the right, staying real low, rising straight up into a very whippy cobra roll. The first half of this element especially snaps you so hard, easily the most dramatic directional change you'll experience on this layout. Definitely reminded me of Alpengeist. Remember, they opened the same year. As you emerge from this element, you'll take this gradual ascent up to navigate through this helix. It starts drawn out, but then gets tighter the higher up you go, and it is forceful. I know the maximum G-forces that Pyrenees features is 4.7. It might be here at this helix. I was surprised by that moment. Much more intense than that rise up that Raptor does over at Cedar Point. So you have a nice smooth transition into the mid-course brake run. You are now at the halfway point, and Pyrenees has a surprise drop coming off of this mid-course. You won't slow down through these brakes at all, and then you just sharply bank to the left. Your body jolts to the right, and then you level out, and you'll feel that no matter where you sit. My first ride was towards the back, and I did not see it coming. Easily one of the highlights of the coaster for me. Following this drop, you'll get thrown into a corkscrew, very nicely profiled, has a good amount of whip to it, and then you have what could be considered the only dead spot on the ride, which is this very gradual left-handed turn. It's a bit slower paced than I would have liked, and then you just kind of gradually slope downwards. It's kind of awkward. It feels like they just need to extend the track so that they could successfully make it to the brake run, and they're like, oops, straight track it is. But the only reason I'm not knocking it too hard is because it makes up for it by gradually building up some speed here and then rising up into an airtime pop. Airtime on a B&M invert, that's a rare one. If you're sitting towards the front, you'll float up out of your seat as you enter the hill, and if you're sitting towards the back, you'll float up as you drop down back towards the ground, regaining all that speed, turning to the right, and then snapping into your brake run. That final turn is pretty intense. The ride ends with a bang, and that is what concludes your lap on Pyrenees. The first half of this coaster, like pre-mid-course brake run, is so strong. Everything up until that moment is a 10 out of 10. Following the mid-course, it's still really good, but it's not maybe as good as some other inverts. But I will give it this, it is unique. The odd downward slope followed by an airtime hill is just so out of character for rides of this genre. And if anything, it's what gave Pyrenees some personality. It helps me remember it when I think about the grand scope of all those inverts around the world. But I think Pyrenees' strongest points, obviously the positive G-forces. This ride is very intense. The brief negatives are so fun. Profiling of each of the inversions, excellent. And then just general pacing in the first half, fantastic. Second half, a little weird. I do think it's worth noting that we had a full train of riders. I've heard from some people when they go when the park is dead that it just doesn't run nearly as well, and that airtime hill didn't really do much. So I'm glad that I got to experience this ride when the park was busy and they could fill a train, because genuinely this was one of the best roller coasters I experienced in that country. So for Pyrenees' final score, I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. This is one of my favorite B&M inverts. And when I visited Japan for my first time in 2019, I completely skipped this park just because of its obscure location. And now knowing how good this ride is, I can confidently say it was worth the trip. If you're a theme park fan, a coaster enthusiast, and you're visiting Japan, make time for Parque España in Pyrenees. It is absolutely worth it. And if you've had the opportunity to experience it, please let me know down in the comments below if you agree with the points that I brought up, where the ride ranked in your B&M invert list. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and checking out other coaster reviews we've done. They're all available in a playlist arranged in alphabetical order by the ride's name. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.